Hey guys, Bowie here, and this is how Arteezy plays Sven. I'm referring to this player as Arteezy because Arteezy is not playing carry in his main account anymore. In fact, he's yet to touch his old accounts at all, and his third Smurf mainly plays support. So I think he'll land that account to someone, meaning that either EG is changing Sumail and Arteezy's roles in the team, or this is actually Arteezy playing on Sumail's account for whatever reason. That being said, there's a main theme in the 3 games I studied for this video: early aggression and fighting for runes. Most heroes at early stages don't want to fight for the runes because a lot of the carries at the moment are not great at it. You don't want to use Metamorphosis for a rune or lose a lot of HP, but Sven is a different story. He has 69 base damage at level 1 of his build, a lot of armor and move speed, and very often Sumail will not only secure the runes as he has a stun, but get skills because of it. The early mango is definitely essential at making sure you can keep on top of people, and that's why this build is pretty cool. In this replay, you can see how ridiculously good Sven is at running heroes down and getting 2 kills and 2 runes. We already mentioned Sven's mana pool problems early on, but that doesn't mean Stick is going to be your first item in lane every time. These are the 3 most important items you can get, with one being always necessary but not necessarily prioritized in lane. In that first game where Arteezy runs down 2 heroes, he's against a Treant and Almars. Not a lot of spam coming from these heroes, and he got the early advantage. Boots allows him to trade insanely well versus them and just chase them down. You might think it's counterintuitive to get Boots against 2 melee heroes since he can already hit them as his CS, but with Boots he can get the second, the third hits while zoning them away from creeps. In this other game, you have 2 huge spammers and not a lot of kill potential since it's so easy for the puck to phase shift the hammer. Stick and Quelling Blade it is then. In this game against an Nature's Prophet and a Mars, he skips the Stick 2 and goes straight into Threads. There's not that much value on Stick in this lane, although he always gets the one later, because it really allows the hero to handle the lack of mana regen. We'll talk more about mana issues, but another common theme around all laning stages from Arteezy is the aggression. This hero is amazing in the lane, and as Mars is pulling the creeps to lane better, Arteezy uses that opportunity to wreck the Nature's Prophet when he was the one that thought was pressuring the Sven. Watch how the Boots gives him the opportunity to, on top of the first hit after the hammer, get 5 attacks on the Nature's Prophet. Tread is the best Boots on carry Sven by far, and also gives you more Storm Hammers in the lane because of the Tread switch. The attack speed is also pretty nice. Going back to aggression and trading, you can see that even though Arteezy knows that EOR can dodge his Stormhammer, he tries to trade nonetheless because thanks to Warcry and Sven being way stronger than a puck, he will win the trade at the end of the day. A lot of people forget that playing any Dota role is not exactly about how farmed you are, but how farmed you are in comparison to the enemy. Meaning, if you have 80 CS at 10 minutes as a carry, but the offlaner has 60, you're not actually that far ahead. Instead, if you have 60 CS at 10 minutes, but the offlaner has 20 because you constantly harass him, and on top of that he was forced to go to the base or buy regen, you're actually substantially ahead of them. This is another great example of that kind of thinking. His Oracle gets dove by the Puck that uses the Orb aggressively. Puck doesn't have boots, so this time, knowing that the Puck doesn't have Orb, Arteezy makes sure to get as close as possible. He then baits the Stormhammer animation, getting the kill. He did lose CS for this, but it's bounty room time and that Puck has a bottle. He punishes the lack of boots at a perfect time where the Puck would be ready to keep fighting again if he just let the Puck get away. The most common build at the moment is rushing Echo Saber after Threads without ever buying lifesteal, and that might sound a little crazy to you, so that's why the farming playstyle of the hero changed to accommodate. The first thing every Sven did after reaching level 6 is using God Strength to farm. You see, after the stat changes, Sven has 6 HP regen, which is the same an anti-mage has to jungle without Battle Fury, and he can do it without a problem. That's because Sven deals way less damage than an anti-mage at this stage because of Wraith Bands. By using God Strength to farm, you have the mana sustain of Threads, losing almost no mana while remaining a relatively good HP level. The reason Echo Saber is the item most Svens are going for is the mana regen in it. By doing so, you can afford the Strength talent instead of the mana regen talent. Echo Saber gives you a lot of strength, attack speed is low for chase. You also have to remember that Sven got reworked, so that his Warcry scales with strength, meaning that you get to a point where you basically take no damage while you're jungling. You would think that in terms of damage, your DPS will change a lot in between Madness and Echo Saber, since Madness gives you an insane amount of attack speed, but that's actually quite the opposite. You can check the difference in DPS here. One Sven has the Mana Regen talent, Madness, and the Ogre Club to compensate for the difference in gold between Echo Saber, and the goal here is to simulate how a normal fight will go. So the damage we are measuring here is the DPS you can deal with the attacks during the stun plus one extra swing. This hero is about bursting people down. The Sven with Echo Saber deals 100 extra damage and has 435 damage shield. By the way, remember to ult before using your shield since you get extra strength from your ult. And that's one thing a lot of people forget about Sven. Your damage bonus comes from how much strength you have, and that's why this build works so well. The other Sven deals less damage during the stun duration, while having 1 armor when the Madness is turned on, and less shield block during the Madness usage. While you can argue that this hero is all about bursting people down, it doesn't matter that you're getting kills if you die after every kill. Going back to farming them, you obviously cannot take Ancient stacks at level 6, 7, 8, but that's fine, and this build comes as a straight response to the fact that there are less Ancients in the map nowadays. The lifesteal was essential for getting those, but not that much for farming normal creep, especially when you consider that the safe lane is super far away from the Ancients on both sides, meaning your support 5 cannot stack them for you and your support 4 wants to be doing shit around the map. The level 6 ult rotation is so important that Arteezy never bothers with this stack until he gets it, but once the ult is up, you can get that burst of gold without hindering your HP levels too much. Before the Echo Saber, clarities are always nice on this hero too, since you want to keep your mangoes for the clutch moments and fights. At the end of the day though, you obviously will jungle less with Sand than before, since your sustain gets hindered by the lack of lifesteal. At least early on, but you're gonna see that this changes later. What you have to realize though is that this is not a problem. Since you have 1300 HP at 8 minutes, no one can bully out of your lane, and if they try to kill you, you're so big that it buys time for your supports to come and you to turn the fight around. Arteezy farming patterns are pretty simple. You clear your lane, you farm the large and small camp, and at best you got a medium camp stack there. While pushing towers is not something you really want to do as a Sven, in this game since Radiant rotates fully to his offlane, he decides to ult and take the tower instead of jungling, which is definitely the right play here, since he did not have the Echo Saber on him to participate in the fight. And the Echo Saber is your first power spike and a great way to start your first rotations around the map. In this game you can see that Arteezy wanted to rotate with the item, but because of Batrider he ends up farming the stack in the end. In this other game though, he rotates once the item is done to kill the enemy anti-mage. This is one of the few games Arteezy free farmed for a long time, but that's because he's rushing a BKB. Dyer has an insane amount of lockdown on top of elusive heroes, so he decides to get the BKB because the Blink Dagger would maybe give him a kill, but he would always get kited and killed later on. In most of the other games, Blink was the choice after the Echo Saber. The mobility allows you to farm more, and the initiation makes the Echo Saber even better than before. It's worth noting that since Radiant has a Nature's Prophet, he is still carrying a Quelling Blade, and the Blink Dagger is also nice to handle Mars, like we see here. And you can clearly see how jungling normal camps is actually pretty easy for Sven once you get a couple of items. The lifesteal becomes redundant quite quickly, whereas the strength items will scale for longer. God Strength gets used deliberately to farm when BKB is close to being finished, and this is a great fight because it showcases very well another power spike of this hero, Move Speed Talent plus BKB. Move Speed Talent is great because it synergizes with your Warcry, it makes you less kiteable, especially with Magic Immunity, and in this fight Sumail gets a Rampage even though he had ult on cooldown for 30 seconds when he joins the fight. His low cooldown stun, paired with the mana sustain of an Echo Saber and Thread Switch just makes this hero amazing at fighting. This other Sven game was more of a pick-off oriented game. The BKB just made sure that Arteezy could kill supports and not get killed getting out. The standard item progression for Arteezy is Sanjin Yasha after the BKB, starting with the Yasha, and it really synergizes with the Move Speed talent since you become this insane chasing beast. Now that AM has Counterspell, killing him as a Sven is even harder than before, because if he's fast enough, he can always reflect your hammer, always buying time even if his blink is on cooldown. You can have your BKB, but it doesn't matter, and that's why it's so hard to kill him. Getting great blinks close to him is essential, regardless of the items you buy to handle the hero. In this game, Arteezy goes Blowthorn for a lot of reasons. It greatly increases his damage if he can get the stun off. Even though he can Manta it out after the stun ends, you have to remember you get extra damage during the stun duration, as well as True Strike, which is an essential item for Anti-Mage, and the goal is to burst him before he can blink out. On top of that, the norm is picking the Stormhammer cooldown talent, meaning the mana regen and mana is greatly appreciated. That's not an item he buys only against Anti-Mage though, he went for it in that other game, and on top of that, he constantly buys the Crystallis as a first item. While the Orchid is great, it costs a lot, so the payoff is greatly delayed, and usually at this stage, cores already have Dispels and BKBs. Orchid gives 30 damage for 4,000 gold, and Crystallis gives 38 damage for 2,000, so pretty simple math when damage is the only thing you care about. This is one of the first fights with Crystallis. Note that Arteezy makes sure to attack Mars from the sides, and even gets the kill on the Jakiro afterwards. The Blowthorn gets ready as they push with Aegis, and people love to say that I don't flame Arteezy or any pro, so here we go. They are hunting the Anti-Mage, and you have two plays here. You either wait for the Manta to Orchid the real one since you clear the illusion so fast, or you Blowthorn as you stun. He hesitated, he used the Blowthorn a little too late, and the Anti-Mage survives. Whoa, I flamed Arteezy, and we learned nothing. Moving on, another benefit of Blowthorn is the ability to get solo kills without using your ult. There you go. Another thing that Arteezy does very well is not showing lane sometimes. At this stage, Anti-Mage is a split-pushing beast. If Arteezy is hitting the tier 2 middle, AM is hitting the tier 3 top. Note how much time he spends in the trees, constantly checking the AM, looking for TP angles in case the Anti-Mage gets too cheeky. Not only the Anti-Mage can split push when he sees Arteezy middle, he can also see the TP towards him, which gives him more than enough time to hit a tier 3 tower and get out unscattered. Only afterwards, he commits for the tower, but because of the meme hammer, Dire ends up losing their tower, but they get a counter kill. This is another great fight. Since he ults, Arteezy doesn't bother Blowthorning the Jakiro, and since he's so fast, he can get on top of the Shadow Fiend. And the Shadow Fiend was greedy, he didn't want it to BKB for a Stormhammer, which, makes sense, but look what the Blowthorn follow-up does. This fight clearly showcases how these talent choices produce one of the hardest scaling Svens possible, whilst having great early and mid game. The game ends abruptly here, but it's interesting to see that Arthur never comes back. Not only he doesn't have God Strength ready, so he cannot really fight the Anti-Mage, even though he's 8,000 gold ahead of him, but the pressure is clearly onto Radiant to come back after that fight. A lot of players sometimes do stupid shit going back against an Anti-Mage because that's exactly what he wanted to do. Surprisingly, in that Ember game, the Ember and no one had Dispels, meaning that Orchid before Crystallis has a lot of potential to kill those slippery heroes. But the game also ends too abruptly for me to talk much about it.
Difficult to get into, and at the same time have a certain intellectual capacity, and so it turned out to be more.
Guys, thank you very much for liking, commenting, and subscribing. As you guys know, maintaining this channel has been difficult for me, especially with casting on the way. So if Patreon is an option for you, make sure to check all of the tiers to see if any of these actually interest you. If you cannot help with Patreon, following me on any social media really helps. Because at the end of the day, becoming a talent is all about how much buzz you can create. I guess Admiral Bulldog is a great example of that. I also want to thank the whole community for the donations on my charity stream. We ended up raising $530. It was amazing. I really appreciate everyone that retweeted my things or liked the Reddit post or donated or was just watching. Everything worked out nicely. Gork even hosted me. I'm very grateful for him. And yeah, I guess that's it. I really appreciate all of you guys, and we will be back.